My best friend was jealous of me and spread malicious rumors about me everywhere behind my back. My fiancé cheated on me and got together with my best friend. The two of them joined forces to kill me, which led to my parents' painful suicides and their seizure of my family's property. However, they didn't expect that in this lifetime, I would directly become their mother. When I opened my eyes again, I went back to the time before my best friend spread rumors about me at school. Looking at this young and beautiful body in front of the mirror, I gently stroked my face. My name is Wendy, and I'm the only heir of the Wendy family. In my previous life, because I was focused on my studies and making money, I ignored the rumors from the outside world. As a result, I was framed, rumors were spread about me, I was poisoned, dragged into an alley, humiliated, murdered, and all kinds of revealing photos of me were taken and spread online. Our parents were so depressed because of my being humiliated and murdered that they finally committed suicide. And all of this was done by my so-called good best friend and my good fiancé. My best friend, whom I had always regarded as family, spread malicious words about me all over the campus network, secretly took pictures of me changing clothes, and even stole my mobile phone to send some ambiguous messages to others. My fiancé, who was so considerate and gentle in front of me, showed others the chat records between him and me behind my back to let others ridicule me. He also cheated on me and got involved with my best friend. The two of them spread bad things about me behind my back together, and even hired people to humiliate me. Finally, they constantly mentioned my tragic death in front of my parents, which made my parents unable to bear it and commit suicide one after another. After their deaths, they took over my family's property completely. Now that I'm reborn, I swear that I will make them pay the price. Calculating the time, if I'm not mistaken, tonight, my best friend will go on a date with my fiancé. And their conversation before that will surely involve me. I smiled slightly and bought the smallest, clearest, and best quality cameras and voice recorders from the digital store. Then I went back to the dormitory. Wendy, can I borrow your new bag? My best friend pointed at the very exquisite white bag that I had placed beside the table. She looked at me with a pleading face, but there was a determined look in her eyes as if she was bound to get that bag. During my college years, my dear best friend had borrowed countless things from me. Whenever I got new clothes or bags, she would come to borrow them. When she returned them, they were always dirty. When I didn't want to lend them to her, she would say that I was stingy. I didn't want to argue with her too much, and I wasn't really interested in these things, so I often lent them to her. I took out that new bag. It was the latest style of a fashion brand that had just arrived recently and hadn't even started selling yet. It was a birthday gift from my mother, and it was really beautiful. Seeing her greedy eyes, I turned sideways to block her view and installed the new mini camera and voice recorder I had bought onto it. Then, I showed a smile and handed it to her generously, saying, "Of course you can borrow it. But you should take good care of it and don't take pictures of it and post them online because this bag hasn't been sold yet and if it spreads out, it will cause doubts." Hearing what I said, her face showed even more greed as she looked at the bag. "Okay, then I'll definitely take good care of it before it goes on sale." I turned a blind eye to her greed and also reminded her to pay attention to safety when going out. However, she got impatient with my nagging. I know. Wendy, you go deal with your documents." I obediently picked up my documents and started reading them. I was in college at that time, and my parents had begun to teach me about the management of the company. So I had to balance my studies and the company's affairs, and I was extremely busy, which was why I didn't have time to deal with the rumors spread by my best friend online. Now, although I still have a lot of things to handle, thanks to my efforts in my previous life, I'm already quite proficient in dealing with these studies and tasks. By the time I finished dealing with the documents, it was already dark. I turned on the camera and the voice recorder. My best friend and my fiancé were having sex on the bed. While they were passionately doing it, they were also talking about how to continue spreading bad things about me and even mentioned hiring someone to rape me. I felt so disgusted that I almost threw up. After thinking for a while, I decided that I couldn't take revenge by myself, as they had also caused the deaths of my parents. As for why I sent the video to my fiancé's father, it was because I wanted to break off the relationship with this scumbag as soon as possible. I sent this video to my parents and my fiancé's father, and also contacted a friend who managed the campus network of the school and asked him to look into the rumors that had been spread about me. My parents soon called me. Wendy, we've watched the video. We never expected that they would want to do such things to you. I'll communicate with their company about the marriage alliance. Don't worry. We will definitely make them pay the price. Hearing their voices that were so protective of me, I couldn't help but shed tears. Dad, Mom, I miss you so much. Thinking about how they had been sad because of my death in my previous life, I couldn't stop crying to them and acting coquettishly towards them. Hearing my aggrieved crying, my parents kept comforting me and kept saying that they would surely teach them a lesson. I don't know how long I cried. I had already used half of the newly opened box of tissues before I slowly stopped. Dad, Mom, I want to have dinner with you at home at the end of this month. Is that okay? I miss them so much. My parents readily agreed. Wendy, we miss you too. What would you like to eat? We'll cook your favorite dishes for you. It's okay if you don't put so much pressure on yourself at work. My parents kept saying words of concern to me. They told me not to put too much pressure on myself. I responded to them one by one. Not long after I hung up the phone with them, another call came in. It was from my fiancé's father. My fiancé's father had been very nice to me and greatly appreciated my abilities. It was precisely because of his appreciation for me that he proposed the marriage alliance between our two families and asked me to assist his son in managing the company. Considering that he was nice to me and that Jason and I had been childhood sweethearts, our family agreed to the marriage alliance. Otherwise, with Jason's abilities, his father would never have let him manage the company alone. Jason's father's tone was full of apology. Wendy, it's Jason's fault in this matter. I'll punish him. You can tell me whatever punishment and conditions you want. You can handle it as you like. You've been wronged. I was shocked when I heard this. I didn't expect that Jason's father didn't defend his son but let me handle it as I wished. But there was still anger in my tone. Uncle, you've watched the video. Then did you listen to the audio? It took a while for a voice to come from the phone. This time, the voice was full of anger. Wendy, he actually had such an idea. Don't worry. I'll break his legs when I get home, lock him at home, cut off his contact with others, and I'll help get rid of those rumors about you online. However, there's one thing I hope for. I hope that the cooperation between our two families can continue. This cooperation is a mutually beneficial one, and Wendy should also know something about it. Jason's father didn't show the slightest tone of partiality in his voice. All his communication was kind and for my own good. I didn't expect that Jason's father would give him such a heavy punishment because Jason hadn't actually done anything yet at that time. However, I was quite satisfied with this approach because the hatred from my previous life was something I could never forget. My anger dissipated a lot and my attitude towards him became much milder. Uncle, I'll go home at the end of this month. I hope that on the 29th, I can see a scene that satisfies me. Then, I can also go home and communicate with my parents. As for Kiki, I'll deal with her myself. I replied because the cooperation between the companies was also very beneficial to our family. Moreover, after my death, Jason's father came to our home to comfort my parents and sent many valuable gifts to them at my funeral, feeling sorry for my passing. Although I hated Jason and my best friend, this hatred was only limited to the two of them. At this time, the friend who managed the campus network at school sent me the posts that smeared me and spread rumors about me and also directly found out who was behind it, feeling indignant about the rumors spread about me. Wendy, you must be careful with your best friend. I never expected that she was such a person and would treat you like this. Looking at the information she had found, it turned out that during the time when I first started playing with this so-called good best friend of mine, she had already begun to spread bad words about me online, distort my meaning behind my back, and set traps for me. She said that I was stingy, that I had a bad temper, that I was slutty, and that I was stupid but rich. Looking at these words that criticized me, I felt as if the whole world had been turned upside down. It turned out that this best friend whom I had regarded as family had hated me from the very beginning. I not only felt sick in my heart but also physically had a faint feeling of wanting to vomit. "Thank you. I will." I thanked her word by word, thanking her for letting me know the true face of my so-called good best friend. I didn't finish reading all that content because there was just too much of it, complaints about me for 3 whole years. However, just as I was thinking of continuing to read them, those posts disappeared one after another, and some posts praising me and smearing that best friend of mine appeared instead. I vaguely guessed that this was the work of my parents and Jason's father. Before long, my best friend opened the dormitory door, holding my new bag, and looked at me happily. There were still hickey marks on her neck visible, and she looked at me smugly, deliberately moving her neck closer to me as if showing off. "Oh, Wendy, I'm sorry. I accidentally got your bag dirty. I'll take it to the dry cleaner next time and have it washed for you along the way." Looking at this woman named Kiki in front of me, the complaints she had made about me kept popping up in my mind. I knew that she didn't have such good intentions to take it to the dry cleaner but just wanted to take that bag for herself. This kind of thing had become the norm. I said generously, "It's okay. I bought some decontamination wet wipes. I can just wipe it clean. Also, since you seem to like it so much, I'll give it to you." Kiki looked at me in shock. She didn't expect to get the bag so easily this time and showed me a delighted smile. "Really? Thank you, Wendy. Wendy, you're so nice." After saying that, she came over and wanted to give me a hug. I stood up and stopped her hug, saying gently, "Of course. You're my good best friend, and it looks so nice on you. You can take it with you when you go out in the future." "Really? Does it look nice? Then I'll take it with me often when I go out in the future." Hearing my praise, Kiki immediately gave up hugging me and turned to the big mirror beside her, starting to admire herself narcissistically. I sneered inwardly and secretly complained in my heart. "Of course not. It's simply a waste of resources on someone like you. And saying it looks nice is naturally for the purpose of monitoring you." Kiki didn't notice my hidden meaning at all. She happily took a stack of wet wipes I bought and wiped the dirty bag. After wiping it, she urged me to take a shower. "Wendy, it's so late. Aren't you going to take a shower?" Looking at her eager eyes, I thought of what I had just overheard. The two of them had plotted to take nude photos of me while I was taking a shower and then post them on pornographic websites online. I suppressed the nausea in my heart and looked at her innocently. "Kiki, I've already taken a shower. As early as when I knew they were going to do this, I had already taken a shower in a hotel outside." "Then Wendy, why don't you change into your pajamas? It's time to go to bed now. It's so late." Kiki said this with a considerate look on her face, as if she was thinking wholeheartedly for my sake. I could see the intention in her eyes. Since taking photos secretly while I was taking a shower didn't work, she wanted to take pictures of me changing clothes instead. But how could I possibly let her succeed? My parents introduced me to a new business client, and we're communicating. I might have to stay up late tonight. I spread my hands helplessly and said. Then I pretended to comfort myself and said, "However, this client is quite handsome, gentle and polite." I turned my computer screen around to show her the chat record. There was also a picture of that man in the chat record. Hearing what I said, Kiki stopped urging me to change clothes and became interested in the client I was chatting with instead. She came over to look at the chat record between me and him. Looking at her excited eyes, I generously let her look at it. It was true that this man was good-looking and polite, but he was actually a scumbag, a scum who liked to torture others. In my previous life, it was Kiki who used my mobile phone to send him ambiguous messages and photos. Finally, after Kiki communicated with him, they drugged me and made me get violated. And the chat record was conclusive evidence, indicating that I was willing, which led to my parents' inability to seek justice for me and their pain. Since the two of them were chatting so enthusiastically, Of course I would give them a chance and let Kiki communicate with him in her own identity. I believed that the two of them would surely have a more pleasant chat than when using my identity. Of course, by then, it would be unknown who would be the one getting violated. After all, I hadn't flirted with him, so naturally he wouldn't dare to do anything to me, but it was different for Kiki. Their retribution came very quickly. I received a call from Jason's father, asking me to go and see how Jason had been dealt with. I went to the Vincent family's mansion with 2 bodyguards. In the big mansion, Jason's father was sitting in the upper seat, with 2 bodyguards beside him, and Jason was kneeling on the ground with his legs in a strange position. When he saw me coming, he looked at me with gloomy eyes, but soon, that gloomy look disappeared and turned into a loving look. He slowly crawled over step by step. Wendy, you're finally here. I didn't mean it. It was that bitch who seduced me. It was all that bitch's plot. I love you. However, I didn't say a word and just watched him as if watching a play. I completely ignored half of what he said because I knew it was all false. I walked towards him step by step, but said the content of his complaints about me to his brothers. Really? Love me? Didn't you say that I was so conservative and slutty, dressing so provocatively all day long but not allowing you to touch me? What do you love about me? Do you love my conservatism, my slutty nature, or my provocative dressing? Surprise flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect that I had discovered these things. He no longer suppressed the darkness in his eyes and started yelling at me. Isn't it so? You're just a slut. Dressing so revealingly yet not allowing anyone to touch you. In the end, you'll still have to marry me. Ha ha ha. Looking at his excited and smug eyes, I couldn't help sneering and stared at him like he was a fool. The marriage alliance isn't the only way for business cooperation. Moreover, even without him, our 2 families would have cooperated anyway. I wonder where he got his confidence from. I looked at Jason's father. His father gave the bodyguards a look, and they dragged Jason away. Wendy, sorry for making you laugh. This is compensation for you. Uncle Vincent took out a contract and handed it to me. It clearly stated that all the shares originally intended for Jason would be transferred to me. I was stunned for a moment. Remembering what Jason had just said, I said somewhat dissatisfiedly, Uncle Vincent, I will definitely not be with Jason. Uncle knows that. So I'm transferring these shares just to compensate you simply. I looked at him in shock, with confusion filling my eyes. I couldn't help asking, why? Of course it's because of my appreciation for Wendy. I don't care who will inherit the company. I just want someone capable to manage the company that I've painstakingly built. After I retire, they can take good care of me. I was tempted by his words. I was indeed attracted by money. Otherwise, I wouldn't have studied company management so hard and ended up not knowing about the rumors spread about me. And in my memory, I also recalled that on the day of my funeral, Uncle Vincent was truly sad about my passing without any pretense. I saw it clearly. I took the contract and signed my name on it. Since the day I showed Kiki the chat record between me and that scumbag, she hadn't returned to the dormitory at night. Worried that she might play tricks behind my back, I directly moved out of the dormitory and lived near the company. Uncle Vincent also arranged a position for me to help me get familiar with the company's internal affairs. During this period, Uncle Vincent was also very kind to me, protecting and supporting me in various ways. Thanks to his support, I became proficient in my career and achieved success many times. However, recently, I felt that Uncle Vincent's kindness towards me seemed to have gone a bit too far, but I always thought it might be my illusion. After thinking for a long time, I finally asked, Uncle Vincent, you don't have to care about me like this. The compensation you've given me is already enough. It seems a bit inappropriate for us to be so close. Miss Wendy, I think you may have misunderstood. The reason I'm so kind to you isn't to help Jason make up for you, but to court you. Hearing these words, I froze on the spot, with disbelief filling my mind. I started stammering. Courtship? Uncle Vincent straightened his collar and bowed to me solemnly. Let me introduce myself. My name is Vincent, the chairman of the Vincent family. I like and appreciate Miss Wendy very much. I'm courting Miss Wendy here. If Miss Wendy can marry me, Vincent is willing to offer the entire Vincent family as the betrothal gift and give it to Miss Wendy." Looking at his straightforward courtship, I was at a loss and didn't know what to say for a moment. I became incoherent. "Uncle Vincent, I have something to do. I'll go back first." Vincent bowed to me again, polite and composed. "Okay, Miss Wendy. Don't worry. I just wanted to explain my feelings to you. If it has caused you any trouble, please don't take it to heart." Hearing these words, I walked faster with my legs and almost tripped myself. It wasn't until I returned to my office that my excited heart gradually calmed down. This was really beyond my expectation. At first, I thought that I might become enemies with the senior because I wanted to take revenge on Jason, and I also thought that we would have no more interactions from then on. But I never expected that it would develop into this situation. Uncle Vincent had never done anything to hurt me, whether in this life or the previous one. I knew this very clearly. The scene just now kept emerging in front of me, making it impossible for me to think. Finally, I turned on the surveillance and recording of Kiki. A very interesting thing was presented in front of me. Jason got together with Kiki again. After the two of them had an intense sexual encounter, Kiki began to state the purpose of coming to find Jason. "Jason, I recently learned from others that Wendy has been staying with an old man all day long." Kiki snuggled up affectionately in Jason's arms. "That bitch." She pretended to be so innocent in front of me. I didn't expect that she was hanging out with an old man. "Kiki, you're so much better." Hearing these words, Jason's eyes were full of darkness. He excitedly kissed Kiki. "Jason, she's taking revenge on you like this. I feel so sorry for you. We definitely can't let her off so easily." Kiki put on a considerate look. "Kiki, do you have any ideas?" Jason asked. "Jason, I've already asked someone to take pictures of her staying with that old man. I heard that she's going to hold a banquet at home the day after tomorrow. We can show the disgusting pictures of her and that old man in front of everyone at that time. What do you think?" Kiki buried her face in Jason's chest, looking really cute, but all kinds of dark schemes were constantly coming out of her mouth. "Kiki, you're so kind to me. You've thought it through so thoroughly. Okay, you can arrange this matter. On the day of the banquet, I'll expose that bitch's true face on the spot." Jason excitedly kissed Kiki hard with his eyes shining. Looking at the plot of this pair of scumbags, I sneered coldly. It seemed that it was time to close the net. I could already imagine Jason's disbelief when he found out that the old man Kiki mentioned was his own father and that I had already taken a high position in their family's company. I'll let them be smug for a while before presenting them with such a scene of a breakdown. I wonder if Jason would still be so smug when he knew that all his shares had already belonged to me. 7. Before I could make a move, a glass of red wine was thrown at Jason. "You bastard. Why don't you take a look at what rumors you're spreading?" It was the other protagonist in the video, Uncle Vincent. Jason turned around and looked at the big screen. He looked at the person in the video in disbelief. "Father, it's you? You too?" Jason seemed to have no idea at all that the old man he was talking about was actually his own father. Vincent looked at Jason angrily as if he had thought of something, took a deep breath, and then kicked Jason off the stage. Some of the photos shown above are completely fictional. Let me explain. Miss Wendy is a shareholder of our Vincent family, owning 20% of the shares and also serving as the management director of our group. My interactions with Miss Wendy are just normal work-related ones. Moreover, that 20% of the shares were transferred from Jason's name to Miss Wendy by me, and Jason no longer owns any shares in the Vincent family. Finally, I will release the information about Miss Wendy's shares in the group and her contributions on Weibo. I was slightly stunned, with a look of bewilderment in my eyes. This was different from what I had expected. I had already prepared to clarify things after Jason went on stage to smear me. I had printed out all the necessary evidence one by one and also got ready to comfort my parents. But none of these were used. In fact, they probably didn't need to be used at all. Vincent was on the stage clarifying things for me one by one and was very protective of me. After that, as Vincent finished clarifying, the bodyguards came up and dragged Jason away. Vincent began to apologize to me for bringing me such trouble and promised me that he would surely teach Jason a good lesson. However, my heart was pounding, which was completely different from the way I felt about Jason in my previous life. My eyes were filled with the scenes of Vincent protecting me. Finally, I gripped the wine glass in my hand tightly and showed a smile as I said, "Everyone, after suddenly experiencing such a thing, I'm a bit at a loss and not feeling well. So I'll take my leave and go to rest now." Everyone looked at me with pity in their eyes and urged me to go and rest. After all, I had been smeared by my fiancé like this, saying that I was having an affair with his father. I walked back to my room and just stood there. I don't know how much time had passed. I picked up my mobile phone. There were messages from my parents showing their concern, and there were also photos sent by Vincent. One of the photos showed the diagnosis that Jason's legs had no chance of recovery, along with an apology for what had happened today. I felt a bit embarrassed to look at them carefully, so I didn't. Then I carried out the final revenge on Kiki. I made the ambiguous photos of Kiki and the man that I had deliberately shown her public, and also sent all the evidence of her smearing me online and reported it to the police. Watching these pieces of information being spread one by one, Kiki's image of pretending to be pure and kind in daily life gradually collapsed. I didn't know how devastated Kiki would be when she saw these things. I only knew that in my previous life, when facing the rumors about me, I felt like I was in the depths of hell with fear in my heart. After doing all these things, I finally opened the messages sent by Vincent and read them carefully one by one. "Wendy, are you okay? Wendy, don't worry. I've already made it impossible for his legs to recover. Wendy, if you want to deal with him in any other way, just tell me. Wendy, don't worry about the rumor problem. I'll handle it well. Wendy, I've already analyzed those photos and got the evaluation and proof online. If Wendy feels aggrieved, I can publicly prove that I'm the one who's courting you." My heart, which had finally calmed down with great difficulty, became excited again. After remaining silent for a long time, I replied with something that seemed completely irrelevant. "Vincent, I want to own all your property." The chat box on the other side was constantly showing the sign of being edited, but no message was sent for a long time. I was getting a bit impatient waiting and was just about to put down my phone. The other side sent a file, which was about property transfer. I was both amused and a bit embarrassed by this message. "We weren't even married yet. It doesn't matter. Any time is okay as long as you're willing. Then you have to bring this file to my parents." After sending this message, my face turned a bit red, and I stopped looking at my phone. Vincent was very quick. He came to my home the next day. My parents were stunned by his straightforward pursuit of me. They looked at the property transfer document in their hands and then listened to his passionate confession. As the chairpersons of the famous Wendy family, they were a bit at a loss for a moment. It took them a while to come back to their senses and ask for my opinion. I said to my parents solemnly, "Mom and Dad, I asked him to bring this property transfer document to you. I want to marry him." Seeing Vincent's distracted expression, I joked. After all, who can resist a little golden potato whose eyes are always on me? But there was a firm and serious look in my eyes. In my previous life, I had been struggling hard all by myself, learning to manage the company. In this life, someone was protecting me in front of me and shielding me from all the rumors. I looked at Vincent. Although he was in his 40s, he didn't look old. He still looked handsome and had an air of seriousness about him. When he saw me looking at him, he smiled at me with joy on his face. Finally, I signed my name on that property transfer document, and our wedding was set for 2 months later. During these 2 months, at work, Vincent taught me seriously and passed on his experience to me. After work, he was infinitely gentle with me and brought me all kinds of surprises. On the wedding day, I walked into the wedding hall wearing a gorgeous wedding dress. In my previous life, it was Kiki and Jason who walked into the wedding hall like this. After forcing my parents to death, they couldn't wait to hold their wedding, and I could only watch quietly as a ghost beside them, with hatred in my eyes. But in this life, it was my turn to have a wedding. My heart was full of joy. However, things weren't that simple. As I expected, as Jason was the son of the Vincent family, this matter naturally couldn't be hidden from him. When I was looking forward to exchanging rings with Vincent with all my heart, a familiar voice rang out. It was Jason. Unable to stand on his legs, he could only sit in a wheelchair and speak with a microphone. "Hello, everyone. I'm Jason, Wendy's fiancé. And now my so-called fiancé is shameless, seducing my father and marrying him." Suddenly, the whole place was in an uproar. The originally quiet wedding scene became extremely noisy, and the guests were all talking about me. I looked at him coldly, with hatred in my eyes. He had cheated on me first, then made a scene at my home, and now he was even disturbing my wedding. I thought that I should send him to prison. However, to my surprise, "Jason, how dare you? Get out!" It was Vincent. He took another microphone and said to Jason, "Dad." Jason looked anxious. Seeing that I was watching the scene as if I were an onlooker, he then turned to curse at me. "Wendy, don't be smug. Even if you marry my father, I won't let you get a penny of my family's money." I, who had been watching this scene with a bit of an onlooker's look before, suddenly burst into a bright smile. "But all your family's money is already under my name." I thought to myself. "You bastard. That's your mother. You should call her Mom." Vincent said seriously. "Dad, you're blinded by her. She's just a slut." Jason pointed at me and cursed, full of resentment towards me. Vincent took a deep breath, as if he was making an important decision, and said seriously, "I was the one who took the initiative to court Miss Wendy. Miss Wendy agreed to marry me because of my infatuation. It's my great honor to marry Miss Wendy. And I've already transferred all my property to Miss Wendy." Jason was shocked with disbelief when he heard these words. "What? Dad, you can't do this." Vincent continued, "Don't call me Dad. I'm not your father. You're just a child I adopted. Now that you've grown up and you're so dissatisfied with Miss Wendy, from now on, you won't be my child anymore. Somebody, throw him out." I was also shocked. I didn't know about this before. Jason seemed to be struck by lightning and froze on the spot, muttering to himself, "Impossible, impossible. How could it be?" Suddenly, he even took out a knife and stabbed at me. "It's you. It's all your fault. I'll kill you." However, I grabbed the knife with a backhand move and then gave him a shoulder throw to subdue him. I started learning Taekwondo right after I was reborn in this life and practiced for 2 hours every day. It wasn't for nothing. I didn't let go until the bodyguards came forward. I said to Vincent rather seriously, "Honey, I think we should call the police." Actually, I was a bit hesitant. After all, he was his son. And precisely because he was his son, I didn't continue to take revenge. After all, Jason's legs were already broken, and he couldn't cause much trouble. But now that Jason wanted to kill me, it was really worrying. I had to find a way to lock him up in a certain place. Vincent held my hand. "Okay, let's call the police. Are you okay?" I shook my head. The police came very quickly and took Jason away. Vincent then told me, "Wendy, I'll send him to a mental hospital." I was stunned. This was indeed a good idea. On the same day, the news reported that the boss of a certain enterprise would be sentenced to life imprisonment starting from today because he had tortured and killed women many times. I took a look at the picture. It was the man who had tortured and killed me in my previous life. And the next piece of news was, Kiki will be sentenced to life imprisonment starting from today because she maliciously spread rumors about others and bullied others, which led to their suicides. I sat on the sofa, drinking coffee with a smile on my face. I finally got my revenge.